tonight on NewsCenter. It's a day solely dedicated to all children in this country. Korea celebrates the 94th Children's Day. Theme parks, the zoo, the entire country was a huge playground for the little ones, including the presidential office. President Park meets with some of them, calling children the future of this country. U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump says South Korea should pay all costs for U.S. troops to be stationed in the country. South Korean government official says bipartisan support for South Korea-U.S. alliance is as strong as ever within the United States. Korea's central bank governor cautions against the Bank of Korea mobilizing power to print money amid the ongoing corporate restructuring. NewsCenter begins right now. It's 9 in Washington, 2 in the afternoon in London, and 10 on a Thursday evening here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to our viewers all across the globe. You're watching Arirang News Center. Now, Korea celebrates the 94th Children's Day today. The entire country has been busy all day long with crowds gathering at public parks, the zoo, and various festivals for this national holiday, as well as the first day of a 4-day golden weekend. The nation's expressways were highly congested and the main airport packed with people hitting the roads and the air. All you need to know about how Koreans kicked off the long holiday ahead. Here's Arirang News' Lee Min-young.
With the 4-day holiday kicking off today, highways and airports in Korea were bristling with hundreds of thousands of people heading off to various destinations in and out of the country. Traffic mostly eased up by now after some heavy congestion this morning as people tried to get out of town. The Korea Expressway Corporation said as of 10 p.m. on Thursday, the travel time from Seoul to the port city of Busan by car stood at about 4.5 hours. It takes about 2 hours from Seoul to Daejeon and 2.5 hours to Gangneung on the East Coast. Travelers can access to up-to-the-minute traffic information on a smartphone app provided by the Korea Expressway Corporation. Also on Friday, which was designated as a temporary holiday, highways throughout the nation will be toll-free. Meanwhile, the country's main gateway, Incheon International Airport, has been booming with people going on vacation throughout the day.
After I found out that the holiday would be long, I rushed and bought plane tickets, and my family and I are now off to Taiwan for the next 4 days.
On Wednesday, about 85,000 Koreans left the country to get an early start of their long holiday. Today, another 85,000. A flood of tourists from other countries is also expected over the break, with an estimate about 180,000 visitors, mostly from China and Japan, arriving in Korea during the holiday. As the first day of the 4-day weekend was marked with Children's Day, various performances and cultural events were scheduled throughout the country to entertain local residents as well as visitors from abroad. In major cities including Seoul, Busan, and Ulsan, special events for children took place, with recreational activities such as magic shows, puppet shows, taekwondo demonstrations, and dance performances being offered. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
A variety of festivities and events were held throughout the country so that children could make the most out of this holiday with their parents. One day in a year when they can forget about school and play with their mom and dad, who can also put aside their work. Our Kim Hae-sung went to a grand public park where the youngsters got an extra bit of fun with their animal friends.
Seoul Grand Park welcomed thousands of young visitors on the day dedicated to them. This park is one of the many places that are open for free for children under 12 on Children's Day. Near the main gate, giraffes use their long necks to reach high into treetops, and elephants say hello to their young visitors.
와, 코끼리 진짜 커요.
Flamingos stand on one leg, showing off their beautiful pink feathers as one young boy marveled at the sight.
It's weird how they stand on one leg.
It's not easy to take pictures with real animals, but visitors can snap photos with theme park staff wearing animal masks.
The theme of this year's Children's Day is Zoo Playground, and tickets are free for all children. We hope our dynamic events can give unforgettable memories to children.
At a face painting event, both children and parents can unleash their creativity. In the afternoon, families had picnics along the stream and relaxed in the shade.
We don't have much time to spend together because of work, but I'm glad we could come here on Children's Day, relax and have a memorable time.
At the children's playground, kids can make sandcastles, climb on the rocks, or play in the water all day until the park closes.
Today, twice the usual number of visitors came to the theme park. Children were not only able to enjoy the beauty of nature, but also spend time with their parents on this special day. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News. Public parks, the zoo, festivals, and parades. The entire country was a playground for the little ones on this day, dedicated solely to children. And the presidential office of Cheongwade was no exception. It opened its doors for a group of young students who got to spend the day with the Korean president. President Park encouraged the youngsters to dream big as they are the future of this country. She also made note of the human rights conditions for children in North Korea by watching a documentary film made by a Russian filmmaker, a story of a young North Korean girl. How the president spent this special national holiday, our Song Ji-sun has the details.
여러분은 우리의 희망이자 나라의 미래를 이끌어갈 주인공입니다. 신나게 뛰어놀고 여러 가지를 경험하면서 여러분이 가진 꿈을 마음껏 키워나가기 바랍니다.
In a message delivered across the country, President Park encouraged the nation's children to find their passion through experience. And some 300 elementary school students had their best Children's Day yet, meeting with the president at Cheongwade. Children from multicultural backgrounds, descendants of war veterans, and those living in remote areas were invited for some exciting events prepared at the presidential garden.
I want to invent vehicles and bicycles that can run across the sea, land and fly in the air so that people living on my island can move around freely.
우리 어린이 여러분들의 꿈이 이루어져서 그렇게 밝은 각 어린이들이 밝은 미래가 열릴 때 또 우리나라 전체도 밝은 미래를 기약할 수가 있습니다.
Later in the afternoon, Park watched the movie Under the Sun with North Korean defectors and the public in downtown Seoul. The documentary, shot by Russian director Vitaly Mansky, portrays a North Korean girl whose life is staged and rehearsed by authorities to make it look perfect to the outside world. With Seoul on Monday adopting a children's charter to better guarantee their rights, the screening of the movie highlights the protection of human rights of children in Pyongyang. After the movie, Park urged Pyongyang to give up its nuclear ambitions and focus more on improving the livelihoods of its people instead. While expressing hope that children in both Koreas can create a happy future together in a united Korean peninsula, President Park vowed to make the country a safer and happier place for children, as all of them deserve to be protected and loved. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
With the beginning of the extra long weekend today, thousands of Korean citizens packed up to spend their vacation abroad. But the packing and traveling also took place in China and Japan, where respective holidays prompted hundreds of thousands to come to Korea. Now, this country is expecting around 180,000 foreign tourists in the next couple of days. Our Kim Mo-gyun reports.
A total of 180,000 foreign tourists are slated to visit Korea during a 4-day weekend that kicked off on Thursday. China and Japan are also celebrating their respective holidays this weekend, namely Labor Day holiday and Golden Week, and a vast number of tourists are expected to arrive in Korea in the next couple of days, and the first group of visitors arrived on Thursday. 4,000 executives and members of the Chinese firm Jungmai Science and Technology arrived today for a 5-day trip, while 4,000 others are scheduled to arrive on Monday. The tour group visited the Dongdaemun shopping complex in central Seoul and toured around Seoul's largest shopping districts on their first day.
I'm so happy to be here in Korea. I love Seoul.
On Friday, the group will visit the country's largest theme park, Everland, south of the capital, and indulge in traditional ginseng chicken soup or samgyetang for dinner on the banks of the Hangang River. After dinner, artists who participated in the soundtracks of Korea's hit TV series Descendants of the Sun will hold a special concert for the team. The massive influx of visitors is expected not only to promote Korean culture, but also to bring huge economic benefits to the country.
The visit of Chinese tourists from Joy Main Company is expected to bring forth almost 50 billion won in economic effects to Korea.
Seoul's government said that it will also put the utmost efforts to minimize inconveniences for residents and tourists alike during the long weekend. Kim Mo-kyeon, Arirang News.
The now only remaining U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump says the United States should pressure its allies, including South Korea and Japan, to bear 100% of the cost of the American troop presence. Well, now that Trump is considered the Republican Party's presumptive nominee, it's a most worrisome idea for Seoul. Our Kim Ji-yeon looks into the feasibility of this drastic policy.
Donald Trump, the de facto Republican presidential nominee, says South Korea should pay for all costs related to the U.S. troop presence in the country. He has made similar comments before, but this marks the first time Trump has called for U.S. allies, including Japan and Germany, to shoulder all the expenses. In an interview with CNN, Trump said, quote, "Of course they should pick up all the expense. Why are we paying for this?" When the interviewer mentioned that Seoul already pays half of the cost to keep U.S. troops on the peninsula, which amounted to over $800 million last year alone, he said, why not a 100%? The billionaire businessman goes on to say that the U.S. should even be prepared to walk, referring to withdrawing troops unless Seoul pays more. He said, quote, "If they don't take care of us properly, if they don't respect us enough to take care of us properly, then they're going to have to defend themselves." There are roughly 28,000 American troops stationed on the peninsula as a deterrent to North Korean aggression, a legacy of the Korean War. Despite Trump's rhetoric, a local expert says there wouldn't be a complete abandonment of the South Korea-U.S. alliance and their military capability in the region if Trump became president.
Even if South Korea doesn't measure up to Trump's standards in the sharing of defense costs, it won't trigger an automatic U.S. troop withdrawal. And even if that were to happen, the U.S. will come up with other cost-effective means, such as increasing the combat capability of U.S. air and naval forces.
It's hard to tell how things might play out if Trump were to become president, but his recent statements carry even more weight now that his rivals had ended their campaigns, leaving him as a presumptive nominee for the Republican Party. Ohio Governor John Kasich ended his campaign on Wednesday, just a day after Texas Senator Ted Cruz bowed out of the race. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
And so it's looking more and more like the race for the White House will boil down to Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. While the former Secretary of State has been leading the real estate mogul in hypothetical matchups, a new poll shows that gap between the two is widening again. Our Park Se-young has new numbers on how the two titans measure up against each other.
Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton is leading her Republican counterpart Donald Trump by double digits. According to a recent CNN poll, Clinton leads Trump 54% to 41%, a 13-point edge and her largest advantage over the businessman since last July. The poll of roughly 1,000 adults was conducted from April 28th to May 1st, just the day before Trump's sweep in the Indiana primary. The CNN poll contradicts another national poll released by Rasmussen Reports on Monday, showing Trump leading Clinton 41% to 39%. The CNN poll shows Clinton is more trusted than Trump on many issues, including terrorism, immigration, and health care. However, voters said Trump would handle the economy better than Clinton would by a 50% to 45% margin. Voters' opinion of Clinton was evenly split, with 49% seeing her favorably and the same share unfavorably. For Trump, 56% saw him unfavorably, while 41% saw him favorably. The Washington Post pointed out that Clinton had a 24-point lead over Trump shortly after he announced his candidacy last June, though that had evened out by September. As time passed, however, the gap widened in Clinton's favor. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Foreign journalists who've been invited into North Korea for the Rare Workers' Party Congress set to kick off tomorrow are sending out reports painting the picture in Pyongyang. Well, for one, the North Korean people are working grueling hours cleaning the streets and polishing propaganda signs to prepare its capital city for that regime's most high-profile political gathering. Observers say the first party congress in 36 years will set the stage for its leader Kim Jong-un to cement his status and herald a new era of leadership that stands independent from his father and grandfather. Our Ji Myung-gil tells us the observation points from that meeting for the rest of the world.
The Workers' Party Congress is expected to declare nothing short of a new era of leadership by Kim Jong-un at North Korea's highest decision-making body. Seoul's Unification Ministry said Thursday that North Korea is seeking to cement the Socialist Party center system and further consolidate the Kim Jong-un regime through the upcoming party congress. The ministry added the event will likely run for 3 to 4 days at a cultural center in Pyongyang. Already more than 3,000 party members attending the Congress are said to have gathered in the city. The Congress that starts Friday will be the first in 36 years. It was held 6 times from 1946 to 1980, but has not been convened since the rule of Kim Jong-un's grandfather, Kim Il-sung. The gathering is expected to showcase Kim Jong-un's achievements in the economic and military fields and cement the path for his long-term rule. Kim is expected to underscore his determination to pursue both nuclear development and economic initiatives. North Korean watchers say he could be nominated to the highest post in the Workers' Party, a promotion from his current title of First Secretary, in order to solidify his position as the supreme leader. However, there is also a possibility the event could end up being local propaganda due to the extensive sanctions imposed on North Korea for its series of hostile provocations. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Shifting our focus, Korea's top central banker is taking a cautious stance as discussions on financing the government's corporate restructuring drive gains momentum. Now, one of the options on the table is for the central bank to inject money to state-run banks that will be saddled with debt. But the governor says more needs to be weighed before the central bank exercises its power to print more money. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
The Bank of Korea governor says there should be an acceptable basis for the central bank to use its authority to print more money. Speaking to reporters in Frankfurt on the sidelines of the 19th ASEAN Plus 3 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting, Governor Lee Ju-yeol said that the basic principle is to keep the central bank's monetary loss to a minimum in the government's corporate restructuring drive. His remarks come as there have been growing calls for the central bank to support state banks, which will be debt-ridden by providing funds for the country's ailing shipping and shipbuilding companies. The governor also expressed skepticism about the central bank giving cash directly to state banks to expand their capital base, saying the BOK cannot use its authority to print money without collateral. The top central banker instead said that loans are a better option than injecting money in order to minimize losses. He referred to a fund used back in 2009 after the global financial crisis, whereby the BOK extends loans to commercial banks in exchange for bonds as collateral, and those banks use the money to facilitate funds to institutions with low capital adequacy ratio. On Wednesday, a special task force of government and BOK officials agreed to consider all available means to expand the capital base of state banks during a meeting to discuss financing the government's corporate restructuring plan. He said that the central bank will not hesitate if there's a role to be taken and stressed that the most important goal is to ensure financial stability. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Over in Korea's parliament, the floor leaders of the country's 3 main political parties are setting the stage for the incoming National Assembly. A degree of cooperation will be required to ensure this parliament runs more smoothly than the last. Our Park Ji-won fills us in on how the new chiefs are going about setting a different tone.
The Minju Party of Korea's floor leader Woo Sang-ho met with his ruling Saenuri Party counterpart Chung Jin-seok on Thursday for the first time since their election to their posts this week. During the brief encounter, Woo asked Chung to help protect Parliament from unnecessary intervention from the presidential office. Chung responded that the ruling camp understands the need to cooperate with the opposition. The floor leaders of all three main parties are under pressure to not only work together, but also to get their political houses in order before the next National Assembly begins. The Saenuri Party's Chung must unite his party after internal conflicts over candidate nominations caused it to lose its parliamentary majority in last month's general election. Chung is a former senior presidential secretary for political affairs, recognized for his communication skills, which is hoping to use it to heal the factional divides in the party.
We need to stick together. We need to be united. Through cooperation and innovation, we will find a new way to get through this.
The Minju Party's Woo, an 8-term party spokesperson, has the job of leading the largest political camp in the next parliament. Known for his gentle and reasonable manner, Woo is expected to help mend relations with the other parties and among the party's factions. His strongest support came from first-term lawmaker-elects aspiring to change the party from within.
The Minju Party of Korea has asked me to make the party capable of shaping the next administration through integration and innovation.
The new floor leader of the minor opposition People's Party, Park Ji-won, is known for his leadership credentials, as this is his third time as a floor leader of a major party. The veteran lawmaker, former chief presidential secretary and ex-culture minister, is seeking to check the power of the other two parties while prioritizing the party's agenda.
We will sometimes cooperate with the Minju Party and sometimes with the Saenuri Party, but we will keep them both in check.
The three floor leaders are expected to meet sometime next week. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
A special holiday like today is a day of fun and excitement for kids of all ages. With many Korean adults working long hours, it's also an opportunity for the entire family to spend some quality time together. As our Lee Ji-won reports, studies show that children who spend more playtime with their parents are generally happier and healthier than those who don't.
The National Holiday of Children's Day in Korea encourages family time and making kids happy. But other than such special days, are kids spending enough time with their parents?
I help mom do her chores during the day and for about 3 to 4 hours before going to bed.
I spend about an average of 2 to 3 hours with my mom, but my father comes home late, so I don't get to spend much time with him.
According to a research by the Korea Clinical Gameplay Society and Association on over 500 elementary students nationwide, 34% of children say they spend practically no time with their parents, while 27% said they spend less than an hour every day with their parents. Surprisingly, only 38% said it's not enough time, 31% said it's okay, and 30% said it's enough. Experts say kids must spend time with their parents if they are to develop their own characteristics and acknowledge responsibilities in a social group. Spending time together, experts say, teaches children how to interact and cooperate with other people. But many Korean kids are not having that experience.
Korea's family culture is too focused on academics and education. If a child is in his or her senior year, the whole family focuses on sending the child to a university, and that is the only topic brought up at dinner. And like a workplace, the parents only ask if they studied or did their homework, checking upon their achievements. And naturally, this may lead to children avoiding conversation or spending time with their parents.
The expert said overzealous parents focus too much on education at the expense of quality time with their children. She added it will take a long effort to create a culture where parents spend more time with their kids. The expert suggested that parents and children should talk about what the children want instead of talking about school and studies. This in turn could help relieve kids' stress while strengthening the bond between parents and their children. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Speaking of spending quality time with family, the month of May is designated as Family Month here in Korea. With beautiful weather and lots of festivities, everyone is encouraged to spend more time with family. Our Oh Jung-hee shows us one of the many festivals lined up for the rest of this month.
Sea Festival kicked off with a full program of events for families and people of all ages to enjoy, including a cultural fashion show, concerts, performances, a parade, and a photo exhibition. The events got underway on Wednesday at COEX Convention Center in southern Seoul with a global costume show, a magnificent spectacle of traditional clothing in a multitude of colors and designs. Ambassadors to Korea from 42 countries and their families showed off their fashion flair, dressed in Korea's traditional hanbok and their national costumes.
It was a wonderful event, showing how Korea is becoming multicultural. Wearing traditional Korean hanboks, it was a wonderful experience. They are very elegant, very colorful.
On Thursday, a parade full of fictional characters, racing cars, and cheerleaders drew hundreds of people out to the area. There were loud cheers as gigantic figures in red, orange, and pink passed by, and the kids in the crowd stepped forward for the free balloons on offer. Parents seemed to be enjoying the event with big smiles on their faces and holding their kids' hands.
The parade was exciting and colorful. I really want to make the most of Children's Day.
I enjoyed this parade very much. Characters in my favorite colors were everywhere.
There are more exciting events for the whole family lined up through Sunday. There will be a lantern festival and a beer festival every evening, and a large-scale K-pop concert will mark the finale. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Koreans have taken their protest to London over a household product made by British firm Oxy-Reckitt-Benckiser that's linked to lung diseases and death of Korean consumers. Bruce Harrison is live in the studio with me for more. Bruce, this must have been a very emotional day for the protesters.
Definitely, Kun-young. Two men traveled there, and one of those men, his name is Kim Duk-jong. His son was 5 when he died in 2009 of a respiratory disease. He's one of many. Korea says 92 people were thought to have died last year from causes related to humidifier products, not all of them made by Oxy-Reckitt-Benckiser.
Now, Bruce, staging this protest all the way in London, how effective is this going to be?
Well, the protests outside the company's headquarters on Thursday, this was just their first day of a week-long trip there. What they plan to do on Friday tomorrow, they'll meet company officials and demand that the Reckitt-Benckiser CEO travel to Korea and make an official apology in front of the victims here. They also want documented, concrete compensation measures.
What they really worry about is not about Korean victims, and Korean people's complaint or appealing, but international influence. So now it is time. We are going to deliver our message to the global and global society, particularly the stakeholders of the Reckitt-Benckiser.
Korea says 530 people registered claims of lung ailments from using humidifier sterilizers made by over a dozen companies. Reckitt says it's settled about 80% of any cases out of 177 claims by Koreans who say they used its products. A massive wildfire is raging on in western Canada after forcing all 88,000 people of the oil city of Fort McMurray to evacuate. Authorities said the fire has destroyed 1,600 buildings, and now it's threatening Fort McMurray's airport and communities well south of the town.
It's very stressful. You don't know what's burned and what's not burned, when you can go back, and now you're sitting here and all you see is red flames. It's pretty scary.
Authorities say there are no known casualties from the fire, but there was a fatal car crash during evacuations. Thousands of people have taken shelter in arenas, hockey rinks, and oil works camps and are often short of food and fuel. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the military can deploy Air Force planes to the stricken city to help as needed.
Now, Bruce, Israelis commemorated the 6 million Jews killed during World War II on this Thursday by the Nazis, of course. This a very somber day of remembrance there.
Somber day indeed, and everyone in Jerusalem took part in a way because for 2 minutes they were supposed to pause during the wailing of a siren that was played through the streets in commemoration of those killed. And the night before, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed there would never be another Holocaust. He says today incitement among Jews has been common among Muslims and Arabs as well as people in Western countries.
They joined hands to distribute the anti-Semitic virus against one target, against us, against the state of Israel, the only real democracy in the Middle East.
Hundreds attended the memorial ceremony and the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum to remember the Jews and millions of others murdered during World War II.
Bruce, I feel like these remembrances or ceremonies are becoming imperative as a means to remember what happened as, a growing number have died and few remain alive, those Holocaust survivors.
Yeah, the living history is going away. Apparently 200,000 are still alive today and about 40 die every day.
Right, and preserving their stories, obviously, is one way to make sure there is no repeat of that history.
Definitely.
All right, Bruce, thank you so much for that coverage.
No problem.
We couldn't have asked for a better Children's Day in terms of the weather, that is. A beautiful day to play outdoors. Will the weather stay favorable for us throughout the long weekend? Let's head straight over to our Ji-hyun at the Weather Center for some answers. Now, Ji-hyun, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the gorgeous weather will continue all throughout, but today, it felt like even early summer.
Probably the summer-like weather can be attributed to the fact that today is also Ipa, a seasonal term that marks the beginning of summer. And the mercury surely responded as Seoul soared to 26.9 degrees Celsius this afternoon.
Wow, beginning of summer already, but rain is on the way for tomorrow, you say?
That is right, and some parts of the country are already seeing rainfall as we speak, and the whole nation should wake up to a rainy Friday. Up to 60 millimeters of rainfall is expected over in Jeju Island, while most parts of the country will see 5 to 10 millimeters of rainfall, but it should all let up by lunchtime. And the top temperatures will be a lot lower compared to today's, about 7 degrees lower compared to today, but daily lows will be higher, so let's take a closer look at tomorrow's temperature readings. Daily low here in Seoul will start out at 16 degrees Celsius. Busan and Jeju will kick off at 14 and 18. And as for the daily highs, Seoul will top out at 20 degrees Celsius, while Busan and Jeju will see a high of 21 and 24. Now, the weather outlook for the rest of the holiday seems to be unstable, with chances of yellow dust sweeping in after tomorrow's showers. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Today marked the 94th Children's Day here in Korea. It's dedicated to not only celebrating, but also appreciating the role children play in the future of all communities around the world. And although we do appreciate the designation of this day, Korea is one of only a handful of countries that celebrate this day. Perhaps we don't need a special day to dedicate ourselves for the well-being of children if every day is Children's Day all around the world, wherever you are. I leave you on that note. That is a broadcast on this Thursday night. I'm Moon Gon-young. Hope you enjoyed our show tonight. For our viewers in other parts of the world, have a good day. For those of you here in Korea and across Asia, a good night from Seoul.